Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News Digital Desk with an update from an audit that was released by the state last week that essentially looked at holistically Lakeland Community College and determined that a lot of changes need to be made in order to make sure that the community college can function properly, can function better, and succeed. Because as of right now, that has not been the case. So just the gist of this, before we get into some of the minutia here, is essentially since 2012, where the college was at its apex of their student population, they started adding a bunch of classes, buying new properties, things like that. The population of the school has gradually declined since that point, yet the expenses have remained the same. Now, this is a problem that exists all over Ohio. Those in the red, that is the decline of college students between 2018 and the expected decline to 2035. According to the state, we are expecting 15% decline in college students between 2018 and 2035 in the state of Ohio. That is a problem that, again, doesn't just exist in Ohio. It exists in a lot of other places, but it shows the problem. Now let's go here. This shows Lakeland Community College, okay? They are in the darker color there compared to the state average of students. While yes, the state average has declined, the Lakeland Community College population has declined at a faster rate. So with this being done, you would assume that maybe some changes should be made, but that hasn't really happened. So essentially, what this audit has looked at is what changes should be done and how fast they need to be done. So what I'm going to do is just kind of roll through here the suggested adjustments that the state believes should be made here. Let me see if it's, there we go, okay. So they gave some recommendations. We're gonna start at the first one. Revise general fund minimum balance policy. This basically goes into the reserve fund balance that is within the college, trying to make it more robust. The second recommendation is to develop and implement low enrollment course cancellation policy. This is a problem, a very big problem. According to the audit, there are many classes that have a low amount of students that should be canceled because they're not filling it properly. That needs to be done. As it says in this, the board should formalize a policy for the cancellation of course sections that meet specified low enrollment criteria. Once this policy is in effect, the board can then adjust faculty staffing accordingly. And here's the key, which could save the college between $1.9 and $6.3 million annually in salary and benefit expenses. Yes, this would be tough for certain staff members. Yes, this would be tough for certain students. However, holistically, the audit is looking at this. If you have a low number of students that are trying to enroll in a class, as this says in here, fewer than 12 students, that can save money, that can save time, that could potentially save the college if it comes down to that. Recommendation 3. After the college determines how it will optimize its course offerings, it should develop a strategy for defining and reviewing low enrollment programs that considers the financial impact to the college. So essentially what they're saying is on a rolling basis here, what they should do is then look at each course that they've gotten rid of, and then they can readjust, determine if they could bring it back or not, and then also look at other courses potentially that aren't at that threshold, but could be at a lower threshold. Recommendation 4. Ensure that the administration is communicating KPIs or key performance indicators that allow the board to proactively steward Lakeland's operational health. Essentially here, look at the trends, look at the staff ratios, look at the credit hours, allow the board to make decisions, whether it's cutting or adding, that they don't have right now. If you go to the mid part of that, it says, during the last decade, as enrollment has declined and as general macro conditions for colleges have changed, key data points such as the prevalence of low enrolled courses have not been emphasized during regular communications. So essentially, this is going to give the board the opportunity to look at everything and to add or subtract. Reduce health insurance expenditures. This one's a tough pill to swallow, but let's walk through this here. The college offers multiple health insurance options that exceed similar institutions in their plan designs. Further, the health insurance plans are more expensive than peer average, while the employee contribution rate is well below the peer average. Essentially what this is saying is, looking at similar institutions, they are paying more for health insurance than they need to be. We negotiate faculty salary schedule. The faculty salaries are based on educational attainment and years of services. Essentially, what they looked at was peers with salary schedules of similar structures What they're saying is that needs to be adjusted and changed. If they do that, they could renegotiate the salaries to be more in line with what is offered by other local colleges that would reduce the higher salaries and maintain stability that they need. Essentially, some people are making too much, or more than at least the state believes they should be. Renegotiating faculty summer rate pay, this is a big one. Full-time faculty, which outlines a number of provisions, basically to allow them to work for the summers, renegotiate that. If it's not needed, this would go hand in hand as well with the low enrollment. You can see that changing. Identify options to improve facility utilization. A lot of the buildings are not being used to their full potential, and according to this, they were constructed more than 30 years ago. However, due to declining overall enrollment over the past decade, the college has more facilities than they need. So what they should do is they should review the spaces that they have. They should then take a look at that, analyze the debt that they're in, and then potentially sell off some spaces, or ultimately just don't use them because that can cost quite a bit. The last two are in relation to cybersecurity and internal controls. This essentially is trying to make sure that everything's up to standards for security-wise and IT-wise to make sure that they are running efficiently. But again, I think that the key here is the expenditures that they bring up. Let's go really quickly to break down all this. So a full-time semester costs $4,000 a year, okay? The total headcount of students to non-students is 4,000. Only about less than 73% of that, so yeah, less than 30%, less than 25%, or more than 25% are part-time, with 28% online. Right now, it is a 10-to-1 student to teacher ratio. In 2014, they purchased a new center with housing complexes. They completed renovations in 2018, and then an additional building was renovated, or is being renovated, in 2014 to add an additional 16,000 square feet for new programming with local workforce support. What they're basically saying here is something like that, it's not needed because they don't have the people to actually fill those jobs. And again, as you're looking at this, Lakeland Community College, 2012, 9,000 students. 2022, 5,000. They have gone down 46% in student population. Very clearly something needs to change. Very clearly something should change. Now, we did reach out to Lakeland Community College for a comment on this. I'm going to pull that up really quickly here. All right. So, we're going to read this together. As a public institution of higher education, Lakeland Community College is committed to being a responsible steward of public resources with renewed focus on greater efficiencies and on cost containment while seeking institutional growth. They then go on to say that they look forward to incorporating the recommendations into their strategies. The Board of Trustees commented, saying they understand the dynamic of the report and they're committed to implementing the changes. They do say that the board has provided a balanced budget for this year and will in the future with increasing financial reserves. They said that they are going to make every change as recommended by the audit. That's a big deal. So they're going to make all those changes that they say are needed. If they're going to work, that is yet to be determined. Now, I did ask, the last piece I want to touch on here, I did ask the auditor, the audit's office, why this audit was done. And they said it's a combination of multiple things. One big part of it was that it was declining enrollment, and then the other part was signs of declining fiscal sustainability. So not just signs of declining fiscal availability, sustainability, year over year. What the state doesn't want to happen is for 1 year students to be in a situation where a lot of these classes are just canceled for no reason, or what appears to be no reason. They want to prevent that. So the idea here is to offer the advice now to make sure that the school can be in a position to effectively run. Because again, according to the state's audit here, they are running right now the same as they were in 2012, when they had almost 50% more students. They were about 9,000 students then. They're about 5,000 now, or a little less than 5,000 now. That is a fundamental problem. The state says they will keep in touch. They will help them identify any more problems and, of course, offer them any assistance. Obviously, this is a big story for those students that are there and any family members of those there, but mostly for the people there, because 73% are part-time. So a lot of people doing jobs, going back for a degree, trying to get that 2-year degree. So the changes need to happen very clearly. The board says they're committed to it. The state says they're committed to it as well. All right, so we're going to be covering this a lot more here tonight on 19 News at 10 and 11. But first, we have 19's only weather show. Right now, 7:40, so you got about 20 minutes left over on the CW, and then of course we'll have 19 News at 10 and 11. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Have a great day and a great night. We'll have much more to come, both on air and online.
19 News, now streaming on Samsung Smart TV. Search for channel 1035.